morning.
Good morning.
Are you guys hearing me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Swananoa Valley. I'm Sally Smith, and I'm a member of the Board of Trustees. We are a liberal congregation without any particular creed, but we do adhere to 8 principles which are printed on the inside of your order of service. It's right in here, and we also have a mission statement which is on the front of your order of service. We like to say that we don't have to think alike to love alike, which means we welcome everyone, whether you are young or old, tall or short, gay or straight, have gray hair, purple hair, or no hair. You are all welcome here. And before I go any further, I have a couple of announcements to make. Jeff Stone has told me that there's our apple trees out here just beyond the little gazebo, and that they're ripening, and anybody is free to pick them and take them home if they want to. And if you have any questions, you can ask him. Wave your hand, Jeff, after the service. Another announcement is that there is a fundraiser today for the Afghan family at the Tomahawk Lake Park near the gazebo there, and with the little stages, I assume. Is that right, Anna? The pavilion, okay. What? 2 to 4 o'clock. Okay, so be sure to come out and support some of our great musicians from the congregation. We have a tradition of inviting first or second time visitors, or those who have been away for a while, to stand and introduce yourselves and tell us your name and where you're from, if you're comfortable doing that. Is there anybody on this side who would like to stand up and introduce themselves? They were all on that side last week. Okay, nobody on that side. How about on this side? No newbies today? Wow. Okay. Okay. Since we don't have to take any time doing that, I would like to read the land acknowledgement statement. The UUCSB acknowledges with respect that the land we are on today is the ancestral home of the Cherokee and other indigenous people. The Cherokee, through stewardship, understanding, and conservation, survived and thrived in this land. We acknowledge their enduring connection to their homeland. And with that, I would like to remind everyone to silence your cell phones or other noise makers. And we will have our service begin.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I'm going to say this now because I'll forget it later, and maybe too much partying when I was younger, my memory failed me. If you feel so moved, most of, if not all of the audio folk who keep the sound going, they're all in the choir. So you can see where that can be a problem. They can't sing and one back there. So, you know, if you want to do something to help with that, you want to volunteer. It's not a very difficult job, I believe. Please talk to Ray. Ray, would you raise your hand? And that would be really deeply appreciated. So, it's a beautiful day. We miss Julia, Jordan, and so we keep her and her next phase of her journey in your hearts and minds. There's a banner you can sign. I'm sure she would be very much appreciative of that. Our opening words this morning. Life is a gift to us and through us, so let's be open to its flow. Let us be open to sharing our special life gift with others. We meet in celebration of the life that is given to and through us. Let us this morning turn our thoughts to how we can touch and be touched. loved and be loved, forgive and be forgiven, to heal and to be healed. We do this so that the goodness of our lives may be a shared blessing. Thank you, Diane. Please rise as you are willing and able, and join in singing our opening hymn this morning, Immortal Invisible, number 273. Please be seated. Our reading this morning is a reading from the religion of Hinduism, number 611. In the back of the gray hymnal, we'll read it responsibly. It's from the Bhagavad Gita, or Brahman. I am the self that dwells in the heart of every mortal creature. I am the beginning, the lifespan, and the end of it all.
I am the radiant sun among the light givers. I am the mind. I am consciousness in the living.
I am death that snatches all. I also am the source of all that shall be born.
I am time without end. I am the sustainer. My face is everywhere.
I am the beginning, the middle, and the end in creation. I am the knowledge of things spiritual.
I am glory, prosperity, beautiful speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and forgiveness.
I am the divine seed of all lives. In this world, nothing, inanimate or inanimate, exists without me.
I am the strength of the strong. I am the purity of the good.
I am the knowledge of the knower. There is no limit to my divine manifestations.
Whatever in this world is powerful, beautiful, or glorious, can be made known to come forth from a fraction of my power and glory.
Now we have the clock. Okay, thank you, Father. This is the time in the service when we invite you to come and share a joy, a concern, a sorrow. The mic is here, and thank you. Diane will light the candle. And the floor is yours.
Morning, Larry Groman. I have a sorrow to share this morning. Many of you know Damaris Pierce. Some of you know her partner, Gary Tapp. He was fixing his roof and fell off, broke 6 ribs, and punctured 1. So he's in Mission Hospital today.
I'm Sally. Some of you know that I have a neurological condition called complex regional pain syndrome that causes chronic knee pain. and I've had it for 6 years. I know I look fine, but I'm in pain most of the time. And I'm really happy to announce that I have an appointment with the Mayo Clinic on August 4th. And maybe they'll be able to do something, we'll see.
Wonderful.
Hi, I'm Evan. I've got a big joy and a small concern. Last night we got to celebrate the wedding with my brother and his new wife, which was very fun and exciting and a hopefully a lifelong journey for them. Small concern is that also adds new relationship dynamics between my new sister-in-law and my mom, which is not easy. So please keep their relationship in your thoughts.
Well, I have good news for a change. Let's see. One of the good news is regarding Norris is just that the COVID there has turned a corner, and the people that were all in their COVID unit have gone back to the two unit.
Yeah.
The really great news is I can't remember if I announced this, but Lena, my daughter, won the WCQS prize of vacation on the beach. So she's taking me, because I called them and said, "You are taking me." So yeah, so it's going to be her and me and Freeman. And Freeman we go as 2 adults, then Freeman just goes for $35 extra a day, so it's a pretty good deal. And everything's all arranged. I'm gonna be there on my birthday, turning 80 on the 8th of August. I haven't been anywhere, including the beach, forever. I'm so excited.
So hello, I'm Elizabeth. Thank you. This is an announcement. This Friday at the Unitarian Universalist Church in Asheville is the memorial funeral for Mark Ward. Just to let you know, at 3 o'clock. It's 3 o'clock Friday afternoon.
This is a candle that has many purposes. Many of you know that I have lots and lots of friends, and I wear many hats and engage with many people. And someone last week told me something that was either positive or negative or to worry about, and I said, "I will light a candle for you in church." And I can't remember lighting one. But I promised to light a candle. So I am lighting a candle for all my friends, whatever they may need or celebrate. And I'll light a candle that I may take Prevagen or something to get it done.
So my name is Joy. Is this on?
Yes.
Are you deaf now? I had asked my sons at some point to come over together and sit on my deck at my table and have lunch together. I mean, Ethan's a veterinarian and Matt is flying all over the country to the work that he does. And they said they were going to be able to do this on Saturday. And it happened, and it was absolutely delightful, every moment of it. Such a treat to actually be with your own sons that you had years ago.
make one more announcement of happy birthday to David Reed.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear David. Happy birthday to you.
Anybody else? And there is someone else. Wow. Here, come.
I couldn't stand up before because I didn't really want attention on me, but I feel like I had to come and acknowledge that I very well, thank you. And I see so many friendly faces and it's so wonderful to be here. Thank you. And I really needed to be here. Thank you so much. Please, Myra
I just want to say most people forgot it was potluck. So for dessert, we have all things chocolate. We have watermelon, lots of watermelon, a bowl of fruit, and 2 different kinds of cocktail meatballs. But we still want everybody to stay.
Someone say meatballs and chocolate. Cocktails. Okay.
We can turn nothing into something.
Yeah.
Hey, there's cookies at the fundraiser and watermelon, so come on over.
Good. So for any of you who, for whatever reason, decided not to come up, we keep you in our thoughts and prayers. So I want to share this reading with you as a meditation, and then we'll have our time to quiet. I think it's apropos for today. It's called We Are Bits of Starfire. So, however you settle yourself, this is the time to do it. There burns within each of us a sacred spark. This spark comes from some cosmic fire whose source we may never know. Perhaps we came from the distant stars, vast whirling, burning gases blazing in the black hole of space. By what mysterious process are we here? We who would gaze at the stars as stranger when we are of the same stuff as they. By what miracle are we born out of the Milky Way, in which we are but a peripheral part, an awestruck observer? Can we look at the stars and forget that we are cast from the same elements in which they burn? Can we gaze into the heavens and forget that we are the commingling of heaven and earth in a star-struck world? It is no ordinary spark that ignites our being, no ordinary fire that burns deep within, no ordinary flame that flares between the twin nights of birth and death. We who live are of the divine fire. We who live and breathe are mysteries of the universe, and we who live and breathe and have our being, we are cosmic creatures. We are sparks of the holy come to life. We are bits of starfire. May we nourish that flame within us. May we let the light of our own faith shine. And may we pass on the torch to those who follow. That is in memory of Julia. So now, while our minds are one, I leave you with the eloquence of silence. And so it is. It's time to, well, wait, should I wait till after the talk?
No, you can.
Okay. It's that time.
Hello. This is a taste of this afternoon's concert, but it's also part of the Names of God that Michael's talking about today. And includes 2 songs that I learned at the Fez Festival of Sacred Music in Morocco. The first one you'll hear is Amin, Amin, Allah. So it's a Pakistani song to Allah. You'll hear the high singer singing that. And then they'll be joined in a medley, which was done in Fez, Morocco, with a very well-known African-American spiritual, which you're welcome to sing along. So this is Amin, Amin.
can lead to sing Spirit of Life, but this will get me through. I know, I just needed it. I needed it because I have thank you, and thank you all for your generosity. I have a neighbor who's forcing me to live out the 8 principles. But he's kind of the impetus. After talking to him, I had to add some stuff to his sermon. He is a retired state trooper from a small town in Georgia. And with all the goodness and the baggage and the stereotypes that come with that. And Don and I are pretty private people, and it's a close-knit kind of community we live in now. And but I'm leery of people who are too friendly too soon. And not just because I live in New York, I was always that way. Because I'm always looking for what's the catch. It's cynical, but let me tell you. And so the first day we moved in, he was talking and he's washed in the blood and all that, and I'm like, boy, that must be icky. And I mean, I've worked in emergency rooms. You don't want to be washed in people's blood. But my point being is just that, and he was friendly, and we were like, yes, thank you. A week later, he brought this huge watermelon. At first, I was like, well, I'm not trying to lie, but it was huge. And he left, I just bought this for you, and it was like, okay. Thank you. And he asked me what I did. Well, they all did. And I said I was a UU minister, and I could tell some of them didn't know what that meant. But they were like, oh, wow, that's great. That's great. And so he's starting to lay it on me, the theology. And I'm just trying to be a good human being. And so, but I knew there's going to be a come to Jesus meeting. And so, the other day before I came out here, I was putzing around in the yard and taking the trash out to recycle, and I noticed him standing in front. He lives right next door, and there's a big pickup truck. And I just waved, and I'm doing my stuff. And it took me about 15 minutes to get ready, and he was still out there, and he was holding up traffic. He was talking to someone. He's like I was warned that his wife was like Gladys Kravitz from Bewitched. You know what I mean? Like she's peeping out the window, and with rollers in her hair and whatnot. And so I just said, well, I hope he's either gone or I can speed by him so I can get to work. And I couldn't. He stopped. And he started telling me about the Lord and washed in the blood. And I'm like, yeah, I gotta get to work. So we talk. So yesterday, my daughter, this is my daughter. Okay. So my daughter came, we paid one of her friends to cut the grass, and he cut the grass, and she was driving away, and he said, who's that pretty lady? And I said, that's our daughter, it's my daughter. I told him, we're divorced and what have you. And so he said, well, what does she do? I said, well, she does a lot of things. I think she's thinking about being a psychologist, but she likes to sing. And, but she'll be away in about 2 years to school. She wants to either go to NYU or someplace in LA. So we'll figure it out, and that could change. And so he says, but is she a good Christian? No. And I said, no. She's not. And neither am I. And he said, well, I said, yeah, I was raised Baptist and what have you. And he went into this thing about the salvation. Oh, he said, I saw you on TV the other night. And I said, on a UFO and religion thing on HNL, he said, yeah. I said, okay. And I was waiting where he was gonna go with that. And he said, well, you know, we both know that God is so big that, of course there are other beings out there. And you could knock me over with a feather. But he could still get into my daughter's business about, is she a good Christian? And if she, you know, and so she's not doing something right. But you know, he said he brought Satan in. He said, Satan knew Jesus and he knew God, he was in heaven. I said, yeah, he fell down and yeah. And so he went on. And I said, you know, but she's gonna be okay. And I had to tell him that 3 times. Because I was getting, I was feeling a little ghetto, like I was gonna, this is none of your business. And so the 3rd time I said, she'll be okay, brother, she'll be okay. And he said, well, I'm hoping you have a good day. And so I guess he got it. But I don't think it's over. But the point is about the names for God. Because even if I had told him what my concept for God is or was, he didn't want to hear it. And I'm thinking about the people who do want to hear it. We may see God in different, thought this is how, I'm leading into this, but his name for God is definitely not the God I would want to worship. Because it's too judgy. And it's too, why you don't even know my daughter. You should have just left it at, boy, she's what she is. But it got me to thinking about how we want to name things. Because if I name it, I was getting, I celebrated my birthday a couple weeks ago, and I always get an astrology reading once or twice a year. And so my astrologer, we were talking about this and, the times we're going into now. And she was saying that as a nation, we have to get used to the diversity. I'm not saying we're going to live in a Star Trek world, which may not be so bad, but it's better than living in a handmaid's tale. And she was saying that we're naming things because we're not used to the diversity that's out there. Not just that's out there, but here. You're trans and you're black and you're poor and you're gay. And so we got to put a name on it because we got to control it. We got to have some way of defining it. And Wordsworth says we murder to dissect. We got to take things apart. And you understand what I'm trying to say? So my question is, why, it's rhetorical, but why do we name everything? Why do we have to name anything? Why do we give a label to a rose, for example? Or a person, or even a feeling? Because, we do this to communicate our feelings, but it can get messy. Let's say, and this is not true at all, but I say, Rose, boy, she's a really angry person. And so what I've done to label it, rather than say Rose has a lot of anger, I'm just making this up. So I've just taken away her humanity. Because all she is anger. There's nothing else to her. And we do that, and words are all we have. I get that. But to describe a flower, or to identify oneself with a feeling, by giving something a name, we think that we have understood it, is what I'm trying to say. And so, by giving a name, we really put, just all we're doing is putting something or someone in a category, and we have to learn to go deeper. We have to learn that there's more. By not naming something, and the Buddhists have exercises for this, but so does Gestalt therapy. We can look at something with fresh eyes. We can look at something as though we are seeing it for the first time. The same is true of people. I'm going to have to look at this brother differently and still see, you know what I mean? It's complicated, but I haven't lost sight of he's a human being, but he's triggering me. So I need to be looking at some stuff when I'm here. And it is also true that he is triggering. It's not right or wrong, but because I don't want to have to be ducking and dodging and not, there he is. I'm not going to do that. Naming is is a convenient way of disposing of things and people. By saying that they are Germans, by saying that they're Japanese, or Hindus, Americans, we give folks a label, and then we wind up being able to use that label to destroy them. The extreme of that is the military. If I'm in Vietnam, these are gooks, they're towelheads, and the Raiders. I have to dehumanize them in order to destroy them. So I have to name them, I have to put them in a category. It's easier to do it that way. One of my favorite scholars and philosophers is a man named Charles Johnson. You may have heard of him. Brilliant man. Sanskrit scholar. I don't know what level of black belt and taekwondo and kung fu. Just a brilliant philosopher, brilliant writer. And he describes a situation how well-meaning people who didn't want to make a faux pas would ask him how he preferred to be referred to. Black, Negro, colored, African American, or whatever. And he said that his response was that all of his friends usually call him Chuck. And his reasoning was that ultimately folks were going to have to deal with him as an individual and not as a general term. Don and I were driving in the River Arts District, and we saw these two brothers holding hands. It was a gorgeous day. And I said, oh, people are out and enjoying the day. She said, yeah. I said, what do you see there? She said, what do you see? I said, I see two people in love, or at least to lust, to love, and holding hands and walking down the street. She said, that's what I see. She said, what else do you see? I said, oh, we were talking about politics. And she said, yeah, are they gay? Are they trans? Are they whatever? We get these labels and we forget that they're human. I'm not saying that you don't want to call people what they self-identify as, but we're so busy labeling that we forget the humanity. Especially us liberals. We want to get it right. What's the pronoun? Not saying it's wrong with that, please don't stop me up there. No, I want to hear that. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying, but there's something beyond that. We saw two human beings holding hands on a sunny day, walking down the River Arts District. Both things can be true. More than one thing can be true. He was saying, Brother Johnson was saying, that the reactions to this comment was usually one of people being startled and then amused, but he called this type of naming and discussion, it's energy draining, because I gotta get it right. If I get it right, then you may not engage with me. You may not connect with me. Or if I get it wrong, I don't get a second chance. I refer to it as the name game. John Kerry used to be Secretary of State, right? His wife is named Teresa Hines Kerry. She was born in Mozambique. She lives here now. Is she African American? She identifies as Portuguese. You get where I'm going? I just think about this stuff. If you do not give them a label, then you have to look at them as an individual, the same way you would a rose, the same way you would do any situation. And so for many of us, words like truth, words like God have become very important. Or perhaps I should say that the feeling which those words represent are important, right? It's the flag, right? That's not democracy. We haven't gotten there yet. It's an experiment. But that's not democracy, right? It's like, what's the solution? If I point at the moon, I'm pointing at the moon, but my fingers, I'm just pointing at the moon. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? We can get caught up into these labels. So, we don't know what the feeling is sometimes because the word has become so important. when I was talking to my neighbor, words like Jesus and Satan and salvation, they were important to him. They were important to this brother. In his poem about the 6 blind men experiencing an elephant for the first time, John Godfrey Sachs writes about how each person had a different opinion of what the elephant is. A wall, a snake, a spear, a tree, and a rope. And they were all wrong. Our experience, and therefore our perceptions, can never be completely isolated or completely free of influences and associations. Quantum physics tells us that we bring whatever is to us to bear on an object, and that object affects us while we're looking at it. So we things not as they are, but as we are. In therapeutic terms, right, it's called projection. Course in Miracles says projection makes perception, which is another way of saying the same thing. The blind men were each able to know only part of the elephant. For some, it was the only part they could touch. That, to me, that's the modern day science. They couldn't see the entire picture, which is, to me, modern day spirituality. So those of us who have eyesight can know what an elephant looks like, but like the blind men, we only see part of the picture. We forget that. We cannot see nor really fathom the infinity, for instance, in which we exist. That's why I picked that reading about the Brahman, because it was very absolute. And for Julia, because Julia is now stardust now. But her energy goes on, right? Quantum physics tells us energy cannot be destroyed. It's not created or destroyed. It changes form. We don't know what form Julia is now, but we know she exists. That's not philosophy. That's physics. Throughout human history, the most persistent questions and widespread response to questions has been some sort of concept about God. God, I said it. Nobody's twitching. Which we haven't twitched here in a long time. We used to, but we don't twitch anymore. Because we grow. And you'll hear me say it more, you know, I've said it, and you know where I'm coming from, so it's not like my neighbor. Bless his heart. You know what I'm talking about, and you know who the first person I want to see when I pull up? And that's how the universe works. People have struggled with this concept for eons, shaping the idea like a potter, you know, with a piece of clay, wrestling with the meaning of the word so that it makes sense for our existence. In earlier cultures, and some cultures even today, there's a pantheon of gods, or perhaps they can be described as different aspects of maybe the one God, or manifestation of God. There were nature gods. There were gods of water and fire and trees and rock. There was obviously, what predates all of this mess, was the mother goddess. Okay? There were gods who were all too human, though, in their personalities and characteristics. The Greek gods, the Sumerian gods, they were just like us. Adultery, fighting, kicking, screaming, angry. Some argue that the earliest gods were in fact goddesses who embodied that which was of prime importance to our ancestors. That was fertility. I mean, women, this is godlike. You create and you carry life. A lot of men don't like that. That's scary. Makes me feel insecure. Not me, but you know. It's terrible. And we see where this is going. But anyway, that's another sermon for another time. But the reproductive power of nature, of the earth itself, was and still is vital to all existence on this planet of ours. But as time went on, this dominant God became a male. There are female deities in other religions and cultures, yes. But Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, they are patriarchal in nature, and they dominate huge chunks of this planet. Islam is still the fastest growing, by the way. Buddhism, a philosophy for me more than a religion, has a central male figure known as the Buddha. They're female goddesses, but it's all about Gautama. Confucius, also male. Hinduism, variety of gods and goddesses and images has, but Brahman is the one god, and it's a male deity. The gods of Africa have male images as well, and female goddesses. They seem to be able to work it out for the most part. Not all. The Judeo-Christian perspective of Western culture taught us that God was a supernatural, personal, angry, judging man whom human beings could communicate with, some folks more than others, and these folks we call ministers. Clergy. That's what you like us, that's what we're called. Priests. This God would and could intervene in the laws of the universe and therefore change people's lives. Again, this God was patriarchal, stern, misogynistic, warrior, child abuser. I send my son down so you could beat him and spit on him and nail him to a piece of wood, but it's all for your own good. With powers far beyond those of the average human being. Now, although this God was not portrayed by any graven images, the words of the Bible and the Quran make it explicit that this is a masculine deity. This is a masculine entity. Now, with the advent of Christianity, Jesus became an intermediary, if you will, an intercessor, because he said his father, this God was his father. And it's another sermon altogether, and he has a point. If my mom's human and my daddy isn't, that means I'm not fully human. You don't have to believe in ancient astronauts to figure that out. Of course, one would argue that Jesus may have been speaking of an entirely different God than Yahweh, because his God is about love and compassion, his Father, and Yahweh needs Gestalt therapy for 5 to 7 years. That's another sermon. Instead of the law of Moses as the Jews revered, Jesus became a role model. The new Moses for the new and involving Christian communities. He was simply a God-filled human being in the beginning, like us. If you don't like the word God, put something else there. But we came from all one source, and we go back to that. Yet after the Council of Nicaea, and other crucifixions, and people getting their heads cut off, all of this, they lost. And so, Yeshua became very God of very God, begotten, not made. Does that language sound somewhat familiar? And that's been the big thing in Protestant religion. Was Jesus God, or was Jesus someone who had God in him? Crusades have been, it's a mess. During the Enlightenment era of Europe, the Age of Reason, the idea of deism was conceived. Some of our founding fathers were deists. The concept of God as the first and primal cause, the great clockmaker. Let me wind it up, and then I'm off, and then I'm gone. This is what deism is. So I set it all in motion, and then I walk away from it. It's on you now. When Descartes says, when he said reality was interpreted by human reason rather than divine revelation, I think, therefore I am, remember Descartes, even the clockmaker remains male. Both conservative and fundamentalist religious thinkers maintain this image of God as male to this very day. I just had an encounter with that. And for them, God better be a white man. Otherwise, why would we worship him? But even referring to God as female doesn't fix anything. It's nice to say, it's cute, I do it. but you're still thinking of someone with arms and legs. You're still anthropomorphic, and God, we make God in our image. The finite can never describe him, can never really know it, at least not while you're in these bodies. If Julia will come back, maybe she tells different. But we're in these bodies. And this keeps us kind of contained. So enter stage left. We have some liberal, white, male, Christian, UU theologians, liberal, with a less anthropomorphic lens. Paul Tillich calls God the ground of all our being. Tillich's God is the structure for everything that exists. Or there's Alfred North Whitehead. He says God is the principle of concretion. In other words, God is the cosmic glue that holds us all together. UU theologian Henry Nelson Lyman thought of God as the principle of creative functioning in all things. He spoke of God as a creative interchange, so that God was and is the process of which we listen to one another, that we really connect with one another, and we arrive at new levels of spiritual awareness because of this. So the point is, a rose by any other name is still a rose. See, I'm going to have to lay that on my neighbor when I see him. Maybe I'll give him a copy of this when I see him, because I know for sure, I'll let you know next Sunday, he's going to be in the yard as soon as I pull my because I have unfinished business. Martin Buber, the great Jewish theologian, found God in what he called the I Vow Relationship. In short, Buber states that there are only two ways that we relate to each other: as objects, as someone I can use and abuse and throw you away, or as unique human beings. We relate to God as we relate to each other, as I vow or oppose or I it. In UU terms, we respect the interdependent web of life which exists, of which we're all a part, and we acknowledge the inherent worth and dignity of the individual. Some people call that God. What's in a name? I'm asking you, what's in a name? We acknowledge, some of us, that God is not Santa Claus, that rewards or punishes us. And just like the blind men in the puzzle, who had each piece of the puzzle, those of us who choose to believe, I am one of them, in something greater than myself, some intelligence, some energy, some higher consciousness, call it what you will, ultimate mind, the force, universal mind, whatever you want to call it. I don't get all of it. I don't get all of it. I don't see all of it. But I know it's there. I see it at work in my life. And I can connect with it if I shut up, and if I'm quiet enough, and if I go out here in the woods, hay fever and all, or if I see it in you, or if I meditate, I feel that I am part of it. And so are you. Whether you want to be or not. Whether you believe it. We only see a piece of the puzzle. We can share definitions of God with each other. We can share our experience of God with each other. And we don't have to agree. We don't have to convince each other. We don't have to win. As Morgenthau reminds us, for some people, it's not enough to win. Somebody's got to lose. When I sometimes encounter UUs or anyone else for that matter, who say they don't believe in God, I say, what God is it that you don't believe in? What do you mean by God? Many of my friends who are atheists or even humanists, they say, Michael, I don't believe in God, but I can't believe in the God your neighbor believes in. I say, well, I agree with you. I get that. I don't believe that some power outside of me is organizing my daily plan. When they say they don't believe in some man up in the sky controlling my life, I agree with that. I don't envision a God that way either, but someone else may. And the beauty of our denomination is that we can all come under the same roof and still identify as Unitarian Universalists. Some of us are Unitarian Universalist Christians. And Jesus is not maybe the God, but is the example. For me too. Not the exception. Some people may say we envision God as the divine mother. They call God, as I understand that. Why not? I just don't envision an anthropomorphic deity. But we can still all be UUs. Some folks don't like the word God at all. It brings up you twitch. It brings up negative connotations. They feel uncomfortable with it. Okay, so be it. But we can still be UUs. I can also expect that my language and understanding will be respected even if I don't agree with you. And that's what I was trying to do with my neighbor. I did not feel like arguing. It was 90 degrees, it was hot. And I'm too old to be arguing over that. As you know, I sometimes use the word God. It has a resonance for me. It's a word with many dimensions, a word with enormous power. But see, it's a symbol. It's like money, it's the symbol. The word is a symbol. It's not perfect. Words are all we have. Your views may be different from mine. But we can talk about our differences. We can respect each other's differences, each other's God talk or non-God talk. According to anthropologist Clifford Geertz, symbols shape our cultural ethos. They define the values in our society. Even for atheists who say they don't believe in God, you are influenced because we are a so-called God-fearing nation. You can't get away from it. You can't. Unfortunately. In other words, religion is also used to create a feeling or feelings. They have a psychological and political power. This is why Dr. King was so brilliant, because he could speak to this nation using the language of the nation, which at that time said, well, we're a Christian nation. Which really isn't true, but he knew how to do it. It cost him his life, but he twerked the conscience of this nation. That is why it's important to be aware of the symbols that we use, that we talk about. And the word God is just one of those symbols. You just have to deal with it. You just have to reinterpret it. It's not going away. You just have to, there was a time I wouldn't even use the word. I was so angry with Christianity. I was so angry with it. But I got over it. I couldn't let it, has its uses. When I talk to him or anybody else, my half-sister, I have to use the language that they understand. I can give them my definitions, but I have to be bilingual, if you will. Otherwise, there'll be no communication. And I can't live next door to this man for the next 30 years of my life. And we don't have any communication. I mean, I probably could. I'm an introvert, but it just would be hard. When we reach out to each other with our joys and sorrows, when we comfort each other, as we did the other day at the memorial, when we encourage each other with love and forgiveness, humor, we do so with the words that resonate with us. There were people who were here the other day who they were Episcopalian, and some of them were as liberal, and they used the word God. And I had to deal with that and talk to them and that kind of thing. When we speak to each other with openness and honesty, we are in the presence of the ultimate, no matter what you call it. We are our grandfathers and grandmothers' dreams. We are part of the great mystery of life, whose demands cannot always be answered, and whose answers cannot always be demanded. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. A rose by any other name. It took me a long time to get there. It's still a rose. Amen, Ashe, and blessed be. All right. Our closing hymn, to top it off, number 23. Same day. Please stand if you are willing to. we give the choir some love? Please stand. Thank you, Sue. Thank all of you. We close with the words of Chief Seattle. This we know. We're all connected, like the blood which unites one family. All things are connected. Whatever befalls the earth, befalls the sons and daughters of the earth. We did not read the web of life. We are merely strands. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. This we know. Have a wonderful afternoon.